Let's also welcome on board Keshav Bhajanka, ED at Century Plyboards, joining in the show right now to discuss the prospects of their business going forward. Mr. Bhajanka, good morning. Good to have you on board with us. It's been a challenging time for the building materials sector. How is it that you've managed a top-line growth of 7%? Okay, we're going to get Keshav online in just a bit, but DHFL, that's the one holding out, beaten down. RBL Bank also looking good by about almost 3%. IDBI holding up 5%. It's really the beaten down names which are making a comeback from Friday. CESC up 3% as of now. And pharmaceuticals, they are the ones which are really seeing traction. In fact, Kosta Belapurkar was just talking about these two names. Sun Pharma, DRL, right on top of the Nifty list. You've also got an L&T, Axis, as well as ICICI Bank and ITC, which are actually holding out. You could add to that a Cipla as well, which is looking good. Apollo Hospitals, the big mover from last week, that continues to see some more traction, up 1.25%.
What's going on in the broader end of the market as well? Just some individual names, because the fact is that the index, the mid-cap index that is pretty much neck to neck with the frontliners. So holding out by a good 0.6% for the mid and the small caps. Just pull up the 1 week chart for Hathway Cables, because that stock has been on a tear. It's had quite a terrific run in the last week. And if you look at today's movement as well, it'll show you a lot of strength. There you have it, nearly 30%. And this is purely in the last 3-4 days trading sessions. 12% incidentally in today's trade and holding out at about 27. KNR Constructions also seems to be building on the gains this morning. You've got Godfrey Phillips and, even if you pull up the 1 week chart of Godfrey Phillips, you'll see that the traction has been building up. It did deliver its numbers, and ever since then, the stock has been seeing quite a bit of an up move. In the last 7 days, nearly 55% on that stock, and Spark too, rather upbeat. But right back to the management of Century Ply to talk a little bit about their margin outlook, the change in the product mix. And Keshav Bhajanka is right back with us, the ED of the company. Good to have you on board. So, let's talk about the environment first up. It's been a challenging time for the building materials sector, but you've managed a top-line growth of about 7%. What is the situation? Have you felt the pinch of the slowdown? What has been the demand trends for you? What's the outlook?
So we have various segments within the company. Definitely, the outlook isn't very, very positive. I believe that in our main segment in plywood, we have seen the market being very stagnant. It is a difficult market, and as such, the growth has been quite muted. But we have a lot of other segments, the laminate segment, the MDF segment, the particle board segment, which have grown very well. And I believe this trend is to continue in the remaining segments, mainly because there is a substitution effect that is coming where the lowest end of plywood is being replaced by MDF and particle board. So I think that is playing into our hands.
Okay, fair enough. Despite growth in the top line, this is the third quarter where your margins have remained subdued. Tell us about the reason for that as well, and whether you see them remaining at these levels.
Our blended margins are above 15%, and I believe that this is a figure that we are looking to continue for at least the rest of the year. Various segments, if you look at the different segments, in plywood, we had a margin of over 14%, and I think between 14 to 15% are stable margins in plywood. In laminates, margins have increased from 9% to about 10.5%, and I believe for the entire year, we can look at 11% plus margins. In MDF, the margins have been in excess of 20%, and we are going to be looking to maintain the same for the remainder of the year as well. And in particle board, we have had margins of close to 25%. We'll be looking to try and maintain 25% for the year as well. So I think overall margins will be looking at about 15% for the entire year.
Now, this is the second consecutive quarter that the growth in the plywood segment has remained muted. So what's really weighing down here?
I think the market in itself has been a little sluggish. There is definitely a problem with liquidity at the trade end. I believe that retailers and dealers are facing the pinch of the liquidity crisis. And as such, there has been some destocking in the market. But I think this is a temporary trend. It might continue for a quarter, 2 quarters more. But after that, things will be back to normal, and we should be able to resume on our double-digit growth strategy.
Okay. We're also seeing, Keshav, a bit of a change in your revenue mix on a year-on-year basis. The revenue from plywood is now at 55% versus 59% in the first quarter. Would you think that your product mix and concentrate could change further going forward?
You see, until about 2 years ago, we didn't have MDF as a product category at all. We started commercial production on the 1st of October 2017. And MDF has been a very, very fast-growing product for us. I mean, in terms of capacity utilization, we're already at 80% above. We're looking at close to 90% in MDF. So going forward, I think this is the sort of blended product mix that you can look at least for the next year.
Amid the kind of demand environment that we're looking at, which is rather lackluster, you still have a revenue growth guidance of 10% plus for FY20. What's making you so confident? Which segments are going to be leading the growth? Are you sticking to these targets?
Yes, we are definitely looking at 10% plus. You see, in laminates, our growth has been in excess of 15%, and we are quite confident that we'll grow in the same line this year. In MDF, our growth has been close to 20%, and we are looking at a 20% growth this year. In particle board, again, we have been at 20% plus growth, and we're going to be looking to maintain the same. Plywood, definitely, the sentiment isn't very positive, but still, I'm sure that we'll be able to maintain at least high single-digit growth numbers. So overall, we should be looking at a 10% plus without fail.
Okay. Any capex plans as well going forward, Keshav, that you want to share with us, and overall outlooks on growth and margins now going ahead?
Okay, so both particle board and MDF have shown very strong growth, and in both product categories, we are at 90% plus capacity, or 85% to 90% capacity utilization, and particle board even higher. So we are looking to expand in both these categories going forward. The capex isn't frozen yet because we are still freezing our plans. But I think within the next couple of months, we should have a board approval, and we should be freezing our plans for expansion in Uttar Pradesh. So that would be on the MDF and the particle board front. As I told you, in terms of revenue growth for the year, we'd be looking at 10% plus for the company as a whole. And in terms of blended margins, we should definitely be looking at 15% plus.
Revenue mix changing, though. You've talked about both the segments, but in terms of in terms of whether or not you actually see plywood, which is now at 55% versus 59%, that actual percentage change coming in. Also, on another note, the central government's Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana plan, do you see that having any impact at all?
Till now, we haven't seen that much impact from it, but yes, we are definitely hoping. I believe the government is taking a lot of steps. It might take some time for all of them to come to fruition. But as of now, there isn't too much of a benefit to the plywood industry out of the same. We are hoping going forward that, yes, things should pick up.
All right, we'll let you go on that note. Thanks so much then for taking time out and joining in, giving us a view as to what the demand situation is, your capex plans, and retaining the revenue growth guidance of double-digit plus for FY20.